Hello and welcome to the 17th episode of my Devlog from the Wisp, where we talk about the progress of the Wisp, and I also pick one game design topic, usually to talk about in detail a little bit more. This week there is not much to talk about from the progress from the Wisp because I didn't have really that much time this week because on my day job there was a lot of stuff to do, and so basically there's no progress. There's also another reason why, because I after I posted last week on TikToks, which people gave me some very interesting feedback. By the way, thank you very much. Um, I had an idea for a puzzle game for probably mobile, and I wanted to prototype it. Like that's like I guess like a lot of you people, if you're also game designers or game programmers, indie devs, whatever you want to call it, you probably notice you get an idea and you get really excited about it, and then it's really hard to not work on it. And like I found out that the easiest way is to do a prototype, a very quick prototype, and to get it out of your system. So I'm going to talk about the prototype today, what I learned, like what are the stuff you need to watch out when doing a prototype, and also some generic idea about not platformers, but puzzle games on mobile. Exactly. So the first of all, I wanted to say what really got the prototype inspired. The inspiration came from TikToks, as I said before. They suggested to me that in my game the Wisp, I should have a parallax background with moving objects. And I thought about it in shades of gray. I think he meant colored stuff, which I don't like because that's really confusing. But I tried it with gray stuff and it also didn't look great. But anyway, after doing that, I had an idea to put the parallax movement in the game, but for the obstacles. And after I had this idea, I actually figured that it sounded to me very interesting to have basically a parallax puzzle where you move all the stuff at the same time, and then you basically need to match them up in order to finish the game. I also figured that doing this, I probably could do a pretty easy level generation. And so my first idea was that I basically would wait. So I will do it differently. I will just show you how the game looks like right now, and then I will go over what I thought about and then other stuff. Yes. So as you will be able to see here in a second. So this is a generated level, so please keep in mind, this is just a prototype. Like this would not represent in any shape or form the final thing. But as you can see here, I generated a bunch of blocks here. And I also have, maybe I do it a little bit more complicated, give me a second. I can change it here, I have here a level generator script where I can tell some stuff, and I will say like how many object pairs do I have? I have right now 6. Let's get it up to 9 and see how it then looks like. Then yeah, you see it's a little bit different now. You have a little bit more stuff, and what basically happens is you need to match the same blocks with the same size. You need to move them together. So but you cannot move them one by one. You can only move them all together with parallax movement. That's what I call it, at least. As you can see here now. See? So this is how you move stuff. And if you like, if I move through, get the red ones to touch, then they will disappear. And that's the basic game. The problem is if you get to these white blocks here, you die. And yeah, so that's the basic idea of the game. If you die, you just respawn right now. So that's the basic idea of the game. And I thought in my mind it sounded really cool to have all these options where you can basically you can have multiple things moving other things. I also had first in mind that only bigger blocks can push smaller blocks and not in the other way around. How it works right now is I just let the physics of Unity handle things, which works out quite fine, I think. Anyway, so, but the game overall, like, I'm not that happy with it, and I'm going to tell you guys why. So the idea, I think, is quite sound, and it was an interesting and new approach to things. So I think it's fine in that regard. But first, I wanted to now talk about why I got excited. So, as you can see, I can generate the levels here very easily. My first approach was to have these um, basically have always make sure that you can have a solution. Like this algorithm right now doesn't do it. Like my first idea was you spawn these basically directly in each other, and then you start moving them around. And because of the parallax nature, if the difference is big enough, they will move apart basically. That's the basic idea, because that's how you can match them again also. And that did not really work out. I actually tried it, but I also wanted to say that I went already, and that's what I do a lot of the time, and that's one of the topics of today. Is I'm when I'm doing a prototype, I should just ignore all these things, but I'm always thinking about all them, and I really want to try them out. And like the thing that you can basically move them, and the level generator then moves them apart and all that stuff, that is just there to make sure that you always have a solution, which I'm not even sure if that's really needed. Like if you I looked a little bit into other puzzles on mobile, and I'm not sure if really every level of Candy Crush has a solution. It might have, but even if it doesn't, like nobody would ever really know. How can you know if a level is generated for you if it really has a solution? I could just say they have a solution, and if they don't have a solution, whatever. Who's going to be able to prove it? Probably no one. So as long as it doesn't generate levels often that have no solution, then it's kind of bad. But as long as there are solutions to it, I think it's fine. So and like in this system, I actually tested it a little bit. There's almost always a solution. Like it at least feels like there's always a solution. It doesn't mean that there is always one, but it's like impossible to tell. Like it's actually not that hard if you don't have many moving parts. So I think there's most of the time there should be a solution. As I said, there might not always be a solution, but like you can do some pretty nifty stuff with all this stuff moving around here and then matching this up. And like it's also really hard to tell if you screwed up or not, because like there's so many stuff that's going on. So I actually think that's a fine approach. So as I said, that was the basic idea. What really got me excited is that first of all, it didn't sound like a big project, because basically it's just like from the UI perspective, I could what I would have done is I would have probably just went with a Unity Asset Store stuff, because I'm not really I wouldn't really want to pay someone really big money to do this, and I figured I could just use some nice cartoon GUI stuff and then basically be fine with that. Um, the other thing that really got me excited is that it's single player. It's a single player experience where I'm excited about. Where actually there's a new approach. Like it's really different, I think, from other games. So that actually is pretty good. So people would legitimately be interested in seeing how this works, because it's like you probably haven't seen a game like this, or at least I haven't. Like maybe there is a game. Like that's always another thing that you probably wouldn't. I would have needed to check a little bit better if there's another game, but. Anyway, so I I figured that's very interesting. The next thing that I said is the level generator, so I could make huge amounts of content very easy, and without a lot of need of a lot of manual handcrafting, which is really good. And the level generator itself is not very really complicated, which makes it even better, because then there's even less time involved. So all that stuff, like I have so many ideas where I'm excited about, and I usually don't end up making a prototype, because I feel like, yeah, I can do that idea later, and maybe I can figure out which one I want to do. Before the next project, I will do a huge round of prototyping, and there I will basically look at what I want to do. But for this, in the current iteration, I didn't actually want to have anything in between. But because the idea was so small and it seemed so easy to implement, I actually figured let's do this. Let's try how far we can get with this and how fast. And now I will say what I'm always doing wrong is I'm always making things too complicated. So the first thing that really got me some problem is I first I didn't want you to die if you went to the left or to the right here. What I really wanted is that the movement just stopped, basically. I basically have that implemented now without the need of really figuring out how to do it, because like basically you have like a little bit of a wiggle room here, and it's not that bad. Like I actually think it's a good workaround. It could even work for the finish game. But what I actually did is I tried to get the physics to behave how I wanted to, and it's actually not that easy because, like, first of all, I did just a collider here without the dying part, at which point the other stuff still kept moving. Then I blocked the input when I touched this. That also had a problem. Like, I only blocked the input in the direction, obviously, because that's what you can do. So, but that has still the problem if you were really close and just moved a little bit to the right and touched it, then basically the other stuff would still move further along the way, because it's saying like move 2 spaces to the right, but it could only move one, and all the others would move 2 spaces. Like that's not really how it works, but that's the basic gist of it is the same. So that gave me problems, and all that stuff I really spent a lot of time with, and I actually should not have. Like what I should have done is, even if I had the bug with the like, I could have even said like, okay, I will just play it as if touching this will stop everything. So I will not. Basically, what I did here now is I will not touch this anymore. That's the thing. Like, and once I would have got that idea. The actually when it touches, restarting the level is very easy. So that's what I ended up with. Like it's so easy for me to do. Just to, if you touch, you just restart. That's it. That's all I did, and it basically does exactly what I wanted without all the hassle of doing all the other stuff. And like I'm pretty sure I spent like 2 hours on this algorithm to get it to work, and in the end I had a solution, but which wasn't quite working. And then I figured out that I could just do it like this, and it was way easier. The same thing, but without implementing, just with thinking I had with the touching things. Like I first wanted, if you touch two similar tiles, basically, that they don't disappear, but they basically would form into another one, and then you could use that for doing more stuff. And like that's a very interesting idea, but it actually is not that relevant, and it actually made the level algorithm way more complicated. That's the next thing I did too much. Like as you can see, like I really have a hard time to not make everything as I really wanted to, because like what I would have needed to do is just to see if it's fun. I would have just needed a very minimum stuff to see, okay, that's actually really funny. Like, I really enjoy my time with this. I think the puzzles are interesting. Like, because, like, what I have here is the puzzles are just not that interesting for me. Like, I don't know if maybe other people find them very interesting, but for me it was like, there wasn't that much planning as I hoped. There was just more like trying out stuff, and basically most of the time it actually worked at some point, and it also did felt that great to begin with, because these to actually move stuff around, it actually is a little bit it's not really tedious, but it's like a little bit of work, and that's not nice. And like all that stuff really didn't really help me with the all that stuff didn't really help me with understanding the game when I kind of lost where I was going with this. So I will just ignore what I said. What I wanted to say is basically I'm always doing way too much thinking without actually trying it out. And like I spend so much time and brain energy thinking about how this moves and how this reacts, when in reality, when I would have just have done this puzzle very quickly, which I would have probably not even taken me an hour to do. Like the generator was like almost no time at all. Um, I would have instantly found out that actually, yeah, the game is not really fun. Like, okay, let's just continue. Like that's really an art in of itself, to know what to do to find out if a game is fun or not. And I think that's really important. And yeah, so as I said before, what I did with the generation in the first place, I wanted to spawn in the same spot and then move them around. The reality was that it was not really that easy to get them really to move apart. So I just spawned them at random spots, and as you can see, like most of the stuff is still working, which is actually kind of hilarious that I think that's the next thing. Like if you didn't test it, like you may do stuff that sounds good in theory, but it's not actually really needed in reality. Like as I did with what I just said, like it just doesn't really make any difference. Like if you can solve most of these puzzles anyway, why would I need that? Like I don't know. Like but as I said, so but what I wanted to go into is what I think puzzle games need in able to succeed, like casual puzzle games for mobile. I'm talking about now, and why I felt like this game wasn't really that great. Like the first thing is that what I think that makes puzzles like Candy Crush or even Angry Birds, Angry Birds is also a physics puzzle in my opinion. Most people wouldn't call it that, but that's what it is basically. And so what these things all have in common is that they always have a chain reaction, and the chain reaction leading to the player feel really smart, like or at least lucky. Like in Angry Birds, I don't know if you really feel that smart. Like maybe some people do. Like I shot it in that angle, that's why I got it to work as I wanted to and stuff. But in Candy Crush, I can't really see it. Like if you delete this, then this happens, and you go in your head over all the stuff that happens, and then you do it, and then you see it all unfold, and then maybe even some other stuff you didn't notice, and you feel just great how smart you were to do that. And like I don't have anything like this in this. First of all, for a puzzler, you need, I think, more planning than I have here right now, because like here it really feels like you just trying around to do it, and the reason is that there's basically no structure to this. Like you can basically just freeform figure it out how you do it, which is fine, but it doesn't help feel you very smart. It just feels tedious in the end, like at least to me. Like it's just like, how can I do this? Yeah, I can maybe I can move these here. What can I do here? Maybe I can also delete this. Like usually what I found out is when playing. Oh, I didn't watch when playing this that removing some of these in the beginning is pretty good, because the thing is, if you remove them in the beginning, you don't have to worry about that many later on, and then it's fine. It actually works. But like I cannot do it while talking. The game is not easy. I would not say that, and it's an interesting mechanic overall. But the idea maybe even a great one. Like maybe I will revisit it later. But it's not like what I hope for. Like usually when you do a game in your head, it always feels like the next greatest thing. Like not all the games do, but some of them they just feel like it's just such a great idea. I should really just do this game, and that's exactly how I felt with this game again. And then once I got the ball rolling, I saw, yeah, it might be good. Like, don't get me wrong, it might be a great game. It might be the next great thing. Not really, because I'm not going to do it. But if somebody else would do it, but it would need a lot more work. And like this very rough prototype has like some interesting concepts, but like you would need to put a lot more thinking in, like how can you get chain reactions, maybe do a turn structure for this. Then it actually becomes way more relevant if that there is a real solution in a fixed amount of time, because like then it gets a lot easier to see what are the moves available to you, and all that stuff. Like as I said, it would be a very different game, and it would need a lot more polish if it really should succeed. And a game like this, where I'm not actually, like, I'm a little bit interested in doing it and playing it, but like it's most like it got me excited because it was a new thing, and it was like something never be done, and something that I can do quick. And like once the do quick basically died off, it basically the idea I didn't really was interested in the idea anymore. Yeah, so the first thing, as I said, is chain reaction for a puzzle game. The next thing, which I think is really important for a puzzle game, is the pre-planning, which I also mentioned. And then there's also something for the casual market. It needs to be a bit random. Like it is good if the game can provide you situations that help you that help you out. Like not bad randomness, but good randomness. Like look at Candy Crush. If you delete something, there's never going to happen something bad. Like you may do it by mistake and like yeah you say okay, I screwed it up, that was a bad move, but like not a random thing that's happening. Like usually you can never expect that you will match three in a row when stuff falls down, and people will not really expect that, but when it happens and then there happens chain reactions afterwards, it's just great. It feels fantastic. Like you feel like I got lucky a little bit. Like even if you cannot do anything, you still get the reward, and giving the reward from time to time randomly is also fine. I think like people enjoy their time, just want to enjoy their time, and they don't want to be overly stressed, and it also helps um to make the levels more be approachable by more people, which comes into randomness overall. Because like if you have a more random game, basically a more varied skill leveled user base can play your game. Like if you have a game like chess, where you play one guy and he's better than you like by 2 times, you will never beat him. So this level would be not winnable for everyone who has, I don't know, like the half the skill level. Let's say it like this. Like you will never win. Where if you put randomness in, it might be that in some rare cases you will still beat him. Like in this example, because it's an extreme example, it will probably not help, because the guy, if he has to play 99 times and only the 100th time he's winning, it will not really help him. But you can see that if the percentage is getting closer, like if you have a 70-30 percentage, and you can notch the percentage just up a little bit to like, let's say 45%, like it's almost 50-50, but the guy who is better still wins more often, then it gets interesting. Like, and we are talking in my example, I'm actually talking about multiplayer, and with Candy Crush, it's not multiplayer. It's basically a single player game, and there you really want people to beat the level, and you don't want them to feel like they cannot do it. So it's really for to appeal to a broad audience, it's really important to have this random factor in, so that you don't just cut away people. Which goes back to the difficulty discussion I had before. If you can put randomness in your game that helps the player, not the punishing kind of randomness, like that's not the best randomness there is. Like the good randomness would basically help the player out. Like if obviously in a multiplayer situation, you will always have like one guy winning, the other guy losing from the randomness. Like if they play against each other, at least if they play together, that's a different thing. But yeah, so having randomness in that scenario is, I think, really important. And that's another thing. I have randomness there because of the generated stuff. So basically, you could regenerate the level over and over again to get good results, but it doesn't really help you that much. Like it's not really that great. Like obviously, as I said, you can think about very interesting things you can do with this. Like maybe instead of killing the stuff, you spawn, you keep them together. Like they just merge into one thing, and they get another color. And here you see the number of colors that is coming. And then you can also match this color with that, and then the thing gets ever bigger and bigger. And maybe then if you touch it direct, then you get maybe into stuff that touches it directly, and if you touch it directly, something else happens. Like you could maybe get to a point where you can get kind of a chain reaction-y thing, and where it gets a little bit more like, as I said, with it gets a little bit more the it gets a little bit more chain reaction. Like maybe like what I could do is like when it touched here, because it touched this one, they would also just become to the big thing, and then it actually would become very interesting. Like you could then say you have colors here, and you only need to match the colors, not the size. And like as I said, there's a lot of stuff you could in theory do, but it's like a lot of more work. And like I didn't really wanted it. I had this idea, it sounded very easy to me, and I wanted to try it. And it's like that's a nice thing, but it didn't really work out for me. As I said, maybe I should like it's actually bad that I'm talking about it because like I actually think the idea is not bad. It actually solves a lot of problems I had with the design before. If you touch this and this, basically, it would grow together, so you have less stuff there. And maybe then if you, I don't know, like how do you solve the problem of the colors? Are these random or are these colors just getting, I don't know, like it's just too much work, I think, for me. And I shouldn't really spend that much time on other games. Like I did it because I really enjoyed myself doing it, and I actually think it's fine for me. Like on the weekend, like I would never do this. Basically, I have put a couple of days away in the week so I can work on my game. I would never do it in this time, but on the weekend, I think I can sometimes have a little bit fun with stuff like that. I will usually play on the weekend and not really work. Maybe I also record this podcast usually on the weekend, but yeah. So I think that's it for this week. I don't know how long was this taking now. No, this is 25 minutes. I think that's fine. There was not that much to talk about for me. I hope you enjoyed this episode as always. If you liked the episode, um, and my thinking, please check out my game, Will Glow the Wisp, um, which you can find at www.parttimeindie.com, or just search on Facebook for Will Glow the Wisp and you will find it. You can download the game on IndieDB or at my homepage. On IndieDB you also just have to search for Will Glow the Wisp. Maybe give some comments on TickSource if you are there. Thanks again for the comments, and you inspired this entire prototype. So that's, I don't know who the guy is, what his name was. I probably should. I will let pop stuff up here again, like I did last time. I will pop the name up of the TickSource user who gave me the idea. I will also put a link to the um, prototype I did for the parallax background if you are interested, which will pop up right now in the end here. And yeah, so I hope you enjoyed this once again, and bye.